Okay, so today we're going to dive into a pretty chilling scenario, a speculative timeline from one source that lays out how our modern world could, well, completely unravel in just 24 hours. I mean, think about it. It's a question we almost never stop to ask, right? We just trust. We trust the lights will turn on, the water will flow, food will be on the shelves. But what if all of that is way more fragile than we realize? So the source material we're looking at today basically puts our entire society to the test. It argues that the very thing that makes our lives so easy, this incredible efficiency, is also its greatest weakness, a hidden vulnerability that could cause a total system failure in just one day. All right, so let's get into it. Let's walk through this source's hour-by-hour breakdown of how a single major crisis could set off a chain reaction, leading to a total collapse. So here's the roadmap they lay out. It's really just a terrifying domino effect. It starts with public panic, which then cripples our supply chains. That leads to our basic utilities failing, and finally, it completely overwhelms our last lines of defense. Let's start the clock. Okay, hour one. The crisis hits. According to this scenario, the very first thing that happens when that emergency alert goes off on everyone's phone is just a mad dash for resources. It's pure chaos, and it happens incredibly fast. So what's the first thing everyone goes for? Fuel. You got to get home, get supplies, maybe even get out of town. But the source points to a pretty shocking number here. If you took all the fuel in every gas station in the UK and divided it up, it would come out to just 8 liters per person. That's it. The pumps would run dry in hours, and that's if the power to run the pumps is still on. All right, next up, the supermarket. This is where you can actually see the panic setting in. The source predicts that in just 3 to 5 hours, all the essentials, we're talking water, canned goods, baby formula, would be completely gone. If you happen to be in the store when the news hits, you might get lucky. For everyone else, it's a race against the clock, and the shelves are emptying fast. And yeah, how are you even paying for this stuff? If the card readers go down, it's cash only, right? But think about it. With everyone rushing to an ATM that has a daily limit, those machines would be empty in no time. Instant financial gridlock for millions. Okay, we're now 6 hours in, and that initial public scramble, it's having a devastating knock-on effect. It's starting to break that invisible system that keeps all of us fed and supplied. And this is where the source really zeroes in on a huge vulnerability, our just-in-time delivery system. It's super efficient. It saves companies a ton of money because they don't have to store a bunch of stuff. That the downside, it means stores, pharmacies, even hospitals, they have almost zero backup stock. What you see on the shelf is pretty much all they have. And just look at how razor-thin these margins are. The source lays it out. Supermarkets have maybe 2 or 3 days of food. The warehouses that supply them, they're holding only a day or two of goods to send out. And this isn't just about groceries. We're talking about hospitals, pharmacies, even prisons. They all run on these incredibly tight schedules. So what happens when the roads are total gridlock and there's no fuel? Well, the delivery trucks stop moving. Simple as that. The just-in-time system just snaps. And just like that, the entire country's resupply chain is broken. So now we're at the 12-hour mark, halfway through. The physical stuff has stopped moving. And this, according to the source, is when the really fundamental things, the utilities we take for granted, start to fail. Let's talk about the power grid. It's running on some seriously old equipment. The source points out that a lot of the UK's transformers are way past their expiration date. Some are 60 years old, designed to last 40. This makes the whole grid incredibly vulnerable. A power surge, an attack, or even just the stress of a crisis could be enough to knock it out. 142 liters. That's how much water the average person in the UK uses every single day. But here's the catch we never think about. Getting that water to you takes a massive amount of electricity. You need power to pump it, to purify it, to keep the pressure up. So when the grid goes down, the taps run dry, period. And your phone? Forget about it. The second that crisis hits, what does everyone do? They try to call someone. The cell towers get instantly overloaded. Then, as the source explains, you've got the battery backups at those towers. They only last for maybe 4 to 8 hours. After that, no power, overloaded system, silence. No signal, no internet, no way to call for help, no way to know what's going on. Okay, we're in the home stretch now, the final hours of this 24-hour window. Let's recap. Supply chains are broken, the power is out, communications are down. So who's left? everyone turns to the emergency services. But according to this source, they're about to be completely overwhelmed too. Check out this number, 2.4. That's how many police officers there are for every 1,000 people in the UK. And remember, that's the total number of officers, not how many are actually on the street at any given moment. This chart really puts it into perspective. For a city of 1 million people, you might have about 2,400 officers total, but on duty at any one time, maybe 480. Now picture this. The source suggests that in a disaster, call volumes could spike by 600% or more. There's just no way. The system would be instantly and completely swamped. And that leads to this pretty stark quote from the source material. It's going to be your responsibility to protect yourself when it all goes down. I mean, the argument is pretty clear. Once the official responders are past their breaking point, safety is no longer guaranteed by the state. It becomes an individual responsibility. You know, a lot of us have this idea that if things get really bad, the military will roll in and help, right? Hand out food and keep order. But the scenario from this source paints a very different picture. It argues their main job won't be helping the public directly, but securing critical infrastructure. Think power plants, government buildings, water reserves, not handing out supplies. And that brings us to the hospitals. Just like the supermarkets, they're built for normal day-to-day efficiency, not for a massive catastrophe. Most are already running close to full capacity on a good day. With their own just-in-time supply chains cut and only a few days of materials on hand, they'd be completely unable to cope with a mass casualty event. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway from this really grim 24-hour thought experiment? It's basically a huge commentary on our modern world. Our systems are built for one thing, maximum efficiency. But that efficiency comes at a cost, and that cost is resilience. We're efficient, but we're not tough. And that really just leaves us with a final question for you to think about. We've just walked through one source's hypothetical collapse, and it really makes you think about all those invisible systems we depend on every single day. So the next time you flip a light switch or turn on the faucet, it's worth asking yourself, what's my plan B?